So, this week has been pretty interesting to me in a couple of different ways. First, with the whole practice of citations, definitely been a learning process for me, and again, very useful, particularly for our upcoming project. And then, of course, I'm sure that I'll be using citations quite a bit as I continue in school. I honestly cannot remember the last time I had to cite something. So, going through the whole exercise of seeing, well, the two different main formats, MLA and APA, for citing has been good for me. And I think I'm getting better. I think I still have a little ways to go on perfecting my citations, but practice will hopefully make perfect. The other thing that I found really helpful this week was related to annotations. So I think I mentioned in one of the discussions that really the only annotating that I've done so far has been on paper, not even really in a textbook. I think it's been mostly where I'll print out a reading that was assigned online, and then I'll just use highlighting to highlight those passages that I wanted to remember or quickly be able to find as I flip through the printed papers. Um, I think that I may have used some symbols like asterisks, maybe pointing or using an arrow to point to certain highlighted text. Again, just as ways to kind of quickly bring my eye to those highlighted items as I'm going through the printed information. But certainly, the other annotating tools that we learned about, I think, would be very helpful. And I certainly do plan on incorporating some of those, if not all of them, into the annotations that I go from, or the annotations that I do from this point forward. So, again, I can see those being really helpful, not just in bringing my attention back to something that I found interesting or important as I was reading something, but also to give me more information about that. So, when I do go back and review what I've annotated, then I've already started to formulate some ideas and thoughts and put them down on paper so that I'm not reading everything, annotating, and then going back and rereading what I annotated because I didn't make any notes related to it. So, in that way, I can definitely see that having better annotations will help me a lot. Um, so far for this project, the research that I'm doing for internet access and, well, as a human right is really interesting. So, before I even saw this topic, I had no idea that the United Nations had actually deemed internet access a human right. So, that's been pretty interesting reading about that and the reasoning behind it. And certainly, there are a lot of cases. I'm finding a lot of articles, particularly out of the Middle Eastern countries, where the internet has really been used as a social justice tool. So people using things like Twitter and Facebook to unite people to fight against injustices and really be able to get their word out. I also find it interesting that in some countries there's even internet blackouts, which I have heard of before, but internet blackouts where people cannot even access the internet or particular sites via the internet from these particular countries because the governments or whomever it is don't want them going to those sites and getting information that probably does not reflect the government or entity in a very positive light. So that's been really interesting, but definitely fascinating how people are able to use, something that's really kind of well used by a lot of younger people today for social networking purposes. Again, just as a tool and a vehicle for social justice, being able to share ideas with other people, giving people access to opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. So, these are just a few of the concepts, again, that I'm learning about and reading about that are really interesting when it comes to this as the topic that I'll use for um, WP2 and 3. I think I need to do some work to try to narrow my topic down a little bit. So I plan on doing additional research next week over spring break and doing just that. So want to definitely focus on a particular area so that I'm not all over the place. But I think that's good for this week. I'm almost at 6 minutes, and I'm sure Monica does not want to listen to me babbling along for much longer. So until next week.